Hey everybody, this is Perch. I posted a community post about it, but maybe, hopefully, you see the news, the Age of Revelation. So this is a pseudo. I think it's unfair to say follow up, but it's a in the spirit of spiritual ancestor. I don't know, whatever. It's connected in a sense to the Age of Apocalypse. The Age of Apocalypse was an event that happened during the 90s. And basically what happened, and this didn't the thing is it didn't happen very often in comics, where you had a lot of long running comics that were in the hundreds of issues. And it was the X-Men lineup, and you also had very, popular books at the time, although a little bit less from when the people like Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee were on the books, but you had the X-Men lineup, and they basically stopped publishing all those titles. And for a brief period of time, basically about 4 to 5 months, they halted all of those books and they created new books set in the alternate reality of the Age of Apocalypse. And you had, just alternate versions of, all the major X characters, and you had brand new titles. In some cases, you had new creative teams, but in a lot of cases, it was the same creative teams just doing, different books like the Generation X. I don't recall what that book was, but anyway, Gen X, you had Chris Bachalo go on to this other book, introduce Sugar Man and all that. So you basically interrupted the very, very popular X-Men lineup that was well established, and then you put this other event in place. So for 4 months, you get brand new titles, brand new event, and then the event culminates and it puts things back in the box, and you get back to the X-Men lineup as we know it. And it was received very well. It had some fairly talented people on art. Like I mentioned, Chris Bachalo was there. I think Adam Kubert was on there. There's like a handful of pretty top level artists at the time. It was very, very different. The X-Men audiences tended to like things like Days of the Future Past, or, comic storylines where you get alternate versions of characters. And so there's a way to kind of like brand new, all different kind of version of Wolverine and Cyclops and Havoc and kind of all these different characters. So it was exciting to see kind of this different version of the future. And keep in mind, and this is a really important one, comic books weren't rebooting all the time. You didn't have, they weren't canceling after like 8 issues and then starting over again. And so it was very novel, the idea that this comic, X-Men was actually going to get stopped and that there would be an all new storyline. It was very, very, we hadn't seen that before. And that's one reason, by the way, when, we're talking about the 90s versus something happening in 2025, it is a little bit less novel, not just because this kind of event where you interrupt all the titles to do something new, not just because of that, but also, because titles have rebooted, relaunched, changed so often that this doesn't feel like a earth-shaking kind of different event. Which I think is pretty obvious to everyone except seemingly Marvel. And it's weird that Marvel doesn't see this as, like, hey, we've gone to this, we basically go to this well constantly. So maybe that's one reason why the anticipation is more tepid and why the sales aren't as strong. But basically, the other thing that's going on is I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it was 6 or 8 X titles. You had the two kind of X books, as I recall. You had Gen X, you had X Force, you had Wolverine, you had X Factor, I think was in there, and one more. Cable was in there. Anyway, you had these kind of different versions of the characters that went on, and then you had stuff that spilled out of it, like Young Cable, or sorry, not Young Cable, X-Man. Well, Cable. Yeah, you had these different versions of these characters that came spilling out of things that then continued into the main universe. But as I recall, it was like 6 to 8 books. I should know this off the top of my head, but man, I'm not a walking computer. I'm going off memory here while I'm driving. This time we're getting 16 books plus the various kind of whatever they're going to call the Alpha Omega, the in the spirit of the universe books, some of the one shots, everything else. We're getting 16 new books. The anticipated amount is 4 issues of each, plus all these other books. All told, you're north of $350 for this event. if you're going to buy all in. Now, granted, you don't have to buy all the books, but I always feel like, and I put this in the community post, I always feel like that's a really, really disingenuous argument. But you don't have to buy it all. Yeah, but they want you to buy it all. It's not like Marvel's like, we're just hoping to get half of these buyers. They're intentionally creating crossovers and putting this stuff in place with the idea that you would buy it all. And you are getting, by the way, out of this book, you're going to get Jonathan Hickman and Jerry Duggan, I think, are teaming up on the Long Shots book. And you're getting Out Ewing over on one of the one shots. It's kind of a bunch of little stories. And so he's going to revisit some of the Araco work that he did. So, I mean, you're getting a few things in here that are more unique. Or at least if you're a fan of the Krakoa era, you're getting that back. But by and large, I think Stephanie Phillips is on the Binary book, which is sort of replacing Phoenix. Anyway, you're getting a kind of combination of current creative teams, a couple new people, and a couple people from the previous era, the Krakoa era, the era, the thing that happened like 2 years ago, that era. But you know what's curious about all this is, to me, the headline or the main thing, the thing that is kind of be the, what I take away from this as an X-Men fan. I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people who goes, yeah, alternate reality, different versions of characters. I'm a sucker. I'll buy into that. I do get excited by that. Some of the pitches, like the long shot pitch, which I mean, maybe it will be fun, but it features kind of Mojo screwing around with, I think Craven and the Rhino were in there. I don't know. I don't have really any interest in that, but I'll read it because, I'm curious what it all looks like. But regardless of whether I'm excited by something or not, I think when I posted this, was it new? I think it was Nerdette. My apologies if it wasn't, but I don't remember who I was talking to. I think Nerdette was like, I'm looking forward to the Cloak and Dagger, and I think the Iron and Frost, what seems to be the Iron Man Emma Frost relationship rekindled. I'm not sure, but cool. I'm glad you're looking forward to it. I'm sure when things get closer, there will be some stories that look more exciting to me than others, and I'm sure I will be excited by some of them. But regardless of all that, I mean, even like, I am not putting words in her mouth, but whatever titles say Nerdette is excited about. If I've got, yes, I'm pretty sure it's Nerdette. It's $350 plus to get this event. And to me, that's the hard thing to get past. Whether you're excited by these books or not excited about these books, no matter how good the storyline is, to go all in, it's just a colossal amount of money. And I think two things can be true at the same time. It can be true that you're excited about, seeing Hickman on an X book again for long shots. You could be excited by that. You also cannot, you can be less excited or not excited at all about, having to fork over $350 for this event. I mean, when all is said and done, by the way, it's likely it will be more based on additional one shots that haven't been announced and various bookends and comics that lead up to this. There's a world where you can make a choice between buying, the PlayStation 5 or the Switch 2 or this X-Men event. I mean, we're starting to talk in those kinds of terms. That's the amount of money we're looking to spend on this. And that's just such a heavy pill to swallow. And so to me, as some of the discourse has gone on, and I've watched on Twitter, there seems to be an argument of, hell no, I'm not giving Marvel my money. And people going, stop hating on things. You should just enjoy it. I'm looking forward to this book. You should be too. The problem is, I think no matter how much you enjoy it, no matter how much the title and the pitch sounds good, and, again, your excitement of seeing Hickman back on an X book, the price tag, I think even the most diehard Marvel fan or whatever, somebody who's like, I love Stephanie Phillips and I love everything Stephanie Phillips does, and I'm excited to see another book by Stephanie Phillips. No matter how far on you are, 350 plus, that becomes an impossible number. And I mean, there's, maybe people like the creators, maybe that's some of it, But I'll give you an example. I like Jeff Thorne. He's come on the show before. We used to do live streams together. He's a fun guy. I actually think he has a very, very kind of good depth of comic knowledge. Like this guy who legitimately like knows some comic history shit. He knows his stuff and he proves it. And I can like that guy to death if he's put on a book that sounds terrible. It's hard for me to it's hard for me to go, I don't care how much it costs. Take my money, Jeff Thorne. I can't do it. By the way, I remember we talked about this once on a live stream with Jeff Thorne. And Jeff Thorne, he says the same thing. It's like there becomes a point where it's like, this is cost prohibitive. I mean, this is impossible for me to support this and buy it. It gets not. We weren't talking about the X-Men because obviously it had come out. It was a couple of years ago, but it's like we have to understand the realities of the situation, no matter how much we like something. Again, Nerdette may be looking forward to what Cloak or Dagger is the title, but that's a lot of money. You can say I'm looking forward to something, and Christ, that is a ton of money. And that's going to be hard to work. It's going to be hard for comic stores. I mean, comic stores can't afford that amount in a crossover and expect it to fly with new books, a lot of which are, feature creative teams that aren't moving big books today. So, I mean, like, you can't, on one hand, because people will tell me this all the time. It's like, well, don't you want them to try things? Yeah, I do. But, I mean, but come on, that's you have to understand that the market doesn't have the appetite for this right now. I hope, by the way, that the comic is good. I do. I hope that I'm pleasantly surprised and the event as a whole is good. I'd love for it to be remembered in the same vein as Age of Apocalypse is. Something that people fondly remember is like major X events that are a big deal and, that will be remembered in history. That would be awesome. Here's hoping. But I'm just telling you, that's a ridiculously hard pill to swallow. And it isn't going to work. No matter how good the storyline is. I mean, here's a question I've been using a lot lately. Think about the best comic you've ever read, whatever it might be. Are you a fan of like V for Vendetta, of Watchmen? You're an Alan Moore guy. Born Again by Frank Miller, the original Secret Wars, Craven's Last Hunt. That's a favorite of mine. If you ask me, look, how much are you willing to pay for Craven's Last Hunt? You can eventually get to a number for me that I'm like, I'm out. Like, I can't, like, if you came in and said, okay, Craven's Last Hunt, it's an amazing storyline. Would you buy it for $10 an issue? So it's going to be $60 for the whole thing. I mean, that's too much money. It's a great story. It's got great art, great pacing. It's an amazing memory, but that's a lot of money. I mean, like, hey, let's say you absolutely love Absolute Batman. You're collecting it right now. Well, how much would you love it if it was $15 an issue? Would you? I mean, the point I'm making here, you could still love something. You can still say, hey, I really like this creative team. I really like what's going on, and you can say, Jesus Christ, that's a lot of money, and that's not going to work in the market, and I can't support that. I'm out. And I think that's the challenge that we have with comics is that they are getting priced out of people's ability to consume them. And when you do something like a big line, I'm sure there will be some fun twists and turns in this thing. But unless you are pirating it and thus don't care at all about how much it costs because you're not buying it anyway, so it really has the monetary value is none for you. You do have to kind of acknowledge that we have jumped the shark on cash and giant events, 16 new comics plus bonus issues times 4. There's problems in that. What are you going to do? Are you buying this? Are you buying a couple issues here? I mean, I again, it's perfectly viable to say I'm gonna buy, this title, this title, this title. I'm gonna buy a couple of these because I like the concept of, say, Iron and Frost or Iron Frost. Cool. Do you but you do realize that this is too expensive, right? You can like something, you can say, "This looks like a really good pitch. I'm excited to see this." All that's it. You know, 4.99 a pop for something that's gonna last 4 issues. Ah, $20 a title? Ugh, it's tough. Thanks for listening.